Well, good morning. Happy Wednesday to you. Wednesday, August 7th, 2024. Thank you for joining me. It's a beautiful day, isn't it? I don't know if you've been outside yet, but it looked like it may have gotten some rain last night. Into the night, it was wet this morning and it was really, really humid. I mean, it was like drenching humid outside. It took me a while to dry off a little bit. But still a beautiful morning. According to my watch, it's 70 degrees and humid. So I think if it was 70 degrees and not humid, it'd be a lot colder than what it was. It was actually a little bit warm outside this morning. The air carries with it a lot of heat, or cold if it's cold. But a beautiful morning nonetheless. It's overcast and everything's wet. As I look out of the window here, it's just everything's wet. The ground's wet. The walls are wet. Everything's wet. So we'll have to see. Today could be just absolutely beautiful or absolutely miserable. I guess it depends upon what time of day and whether or not the sun's shining and how much moisture is out there. Let's look at our birthdays. Today's the 7th. We don't have any birthdays today. So I'm going to close that out. And what else do I want to say? I guess that's about it. We start our first Wednesday night tonight. So we take off over the summer, but when we get into August, once school starts, we get into our school year programming on Wednesday night. So from 5 to 6 is the younger kids, and then from 6 to 6:30 is dinner, and then from 6:30 to 8 is the older kids. And this is usually a lot of fun. And tonight will be a lot of fun because they'll invite their friends and we'll play games. It's mostly just game night to get people excited about the year. They typically have game nights once a month or so, and then there's a worship service once a month, and then there's Bible study and other learning God's words things sprinkled throughout the month. But it is a lot of fun. Most people, like all the kids, sit together. Well, at dinner, they don't sit with their parents. They're all sitting with each other. There's something about having a meal together. I've noticed this. This is one of the most interesting things. When you have a family and the family eats together, the meal is special. If you have a family meal together, that's a special time. And when we worshiped, we had a Bible study worship, Bible study sing-along on Sunday nights. Man, that was special too. And then we have these Wednesday night things. There's just something special about getting together for a meal that is really, really special. I don't know how to say it. It brings people together. I typically get an opportunity to sit down and have a meal with somebody and see how their life is going and all those sort of things. So I really covet these Wednesday night meals. They're really, really wonderful. So if you want to, it's hard to get to. A lot of people get home and they don't want to do anything. But if you want to enjoy life, come and have a meal. It's free. It's a free meal. All right, let's get into and it starts tonight. Tonight, it'll go until May, and then we'll stop. So let's get into our study. We are in 1 Kings chapter 18, and we are in the middle of the story of the prophet Elijah. Eli, my God, Yah is Yahweh, Elijah, and he has prophesied against King Ahab. King Ahab is a bad king. At the beginning of his reign, in the middle of his reign, at the end of his reign, he's just a bad king. He is as bad as Jeroboam and all the other kings between Ahab and Jeroboam. He follows the Baals. He has a wife named Jezebel. Jezebel brings Baal worship into Israel, and they are fully fledged pagan worship, sexualized pagan worship in the northern kingdom and of Israel. And this is what prompts God to bring about the prophet Elijah, to bring back Israel to following God. And Elijah is one of the guys that's going to attempt to do this. So he goes to tell Ahab, there's no rain until I say there's rain. And then he leaves. And now the king, Ahab, is not happy with Elijah because the land is barren and dry and people are dying and the food isn't coming and it's not prosperity. It's famine and drought. And it's all because of Elijah. And so he wants to either kill Elijah or force Elijah to tell God to make it rain. He's probably not getting along well with his wife. She's probably blaming him. I mean, it's just things in the land of Israel are not going well. He built a palace in Samaria. So that's where the northern kingdom is, the capital is. And Ahab is trying to get along as best as he can, but the people are probably not happy with him either. Whenever things are going bad in the land, it's the guy at the top that gets blamed. So Ahab's at the top, so he's taking all the blame. And people are like, why are we in drought? Why are we in famine? What's going on? Well, let's pick up the story. We're in the middle of the drought. This is chapter 18, and we'll just start reading in verse 1. After a long time in the third year, the word of the Lord came to Elijah, "Go and present yourself to Ahab, and I will send rain on the land." So God says to Elijah, all right, you've already done these other things. You had the widow at Zarephath, right? You raised his son from the dead. Now I want you to go to the king, Ahab, and present yourself. Doesn't say what's going to happen when he gets there, but he says, go present yourself. Now, Elijah's on the lam from Ahab. And if he goes and presents himself to Ahab, there's a high likelihood that the moment that Ahab sees Elijah, he's going to run him through with the sword or have somebody else run him through with the sword. And Elijah probably wants to stay as far away from him as he possibly can. But God tells him, go to Ahab, present yourself, and I will send rain on the land. This is like Moses presenting himself to Pharaoh. This is a dangerous time. And Elijah, if it were me, I'd say, God, thanks, but no thanks. I'm going the opposite direction. You want me to do what? You want me to go tell them what? But this is the story of God's prophets, right? God tells the prophet, go and do it. And the prophet, I mean, Jonah did run away the other direction until God swallowed him up by a whale and said, no, you will go to Nineveh. So Elijah, probably because he just raised the widow's son from the dead, has a lot of confidence in God that God does great things and has done great things and will be with him in this time. And so Elijah is going to go see Ahab. Verse 2, so Elijah went to present himself to Ahab. Now the famine was severe in Samaria, and Ahab had summoned Obadiah, his palace administrator. Obadiah was a devout believer in the Lord. While Jezebel was killing off the Lord's prophets, Obadiah had taken 100 prophets and hidden them in 2 caves, 50 in each, and had supplied them with food and water. So this Obadiah is a good guy. It says here that he's a follower of God. And when Jezebel, he was a palace administrator. There's another Obadiah that we see in the Old Testament. Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum. The Obadiah that's in the Old Testament is not this Obadiah. Obadiah, Obed, servant. Yah, servant of God. Obadiah, my servant is God, or I'm God's servant. This Obadiah, the Obadiah here is the Obadiah that's the palace administrator. He's not the Obadiah that's in the Old Testament, that prophet. That prophet is 400 years later, during the exile. So but it's a common name, Obadiah. I'm a servant of God, basically. So this guy is in the palace, and he's the palace administrator. So he is with Jezebel. And Jezebel says, I want you to kill all the prophets who prophesy against Baal. And so she starts killing all of God's prophets. And Obadiah is like, no, I'm not going to do that. So he finds 100 prophets and goes and puts them in caves and brings them, from the palace supplies. He brings them food and water and keeps them safe. And why is Jezebel doing this? Well, I imagine likely that Jezebel's doing this because there's famine in the land. And she thinks that if she can just simply kill off all God's prophets, all Yahweh's prophets, that the famine will go away. Well, that is the most unwise thing you could possibly imagine. Just because you kill all of God's prophets doesn't mean that God's going to go away. As a matter of fact, it's quite possible that God could get angry with you because you're killing all his prophets. Jezebel is not wise. It's hard. Following God, there's not many commandments. There's just 10. Don't kill, don't steal, don't commit adultery, don't bear false witness, don't lie. Remember the Sabbath day, have no other gods before me. I mean, just a few commandments. If you follow them, the nation goes really, really, really well. But unfortunately, following those commandments for some people is really, really hard. And Baal worship, they don't have those commandments. Baal worship is basically do anything you want, have as much pleasure as you possibly want, lie, cheat, steal, profane your neighbor, get as much wealth as you can by cheating your neighbor. Basically, basically be very much like some of the people in the United States today. Just do that, and you'll have all the pleasure and wealth, and you can do anything you want, and you don't have to follow God. No, it doesn't work that way. That's not where true wealth is, and it's not where true happiness is. But Jezebel wants to follow Baal. United States, a lot of people in the United States want to follow Baal today. Not the god Baal and actually follow him, but do all the things that Baal would allow. Let me put it that way. Because it just appeals to the human heart and the human condition. Man, have all that freedom, not be bound by God's law, do anything I want to. And oh man, I can just all about me, me, me. Baal is all about me, 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 me. Baal is what Martin Luther would say is man curved in on himself, curvatus in se in the Latin. That's basically Baal worship. I am my own God. I can do anything I want and anything I please. That's basically pagan worship. Sorry, I'm going off. All right, so Obadiah hides these prophets in the cave because he doesn't want Jezebel to kill him. Verse 5. Ahab had said to Obadiah, go through the land to all the springs and valleys. Maybe we can find some grass to keep the horses and mules alive so we will not have to kill any of our animals. So they divided the land that they were to cover, Ahab going in one direction and Obadiah in another. So he must be, Obadiah must be Ahab's right-hand man because it's just the two of them. And Ahab's like, I got to do something. These animals are starving. They're hungry. There's not enough food for them. If we cannot find food for them, they're all going to die. So if we don't cull the herd to keep some of them alive, we won't have any animals. And then how are we going to get animals in the future? So Ahab says to Obadiah, his trusted servant, you go that direction, I'll go that direction. We're going to see if we can find any grass anywhere. We'll come back, and if there's any grass anywhere, let's take the animals. Well, let's kill some of the herd and take these animals so that at least they can live. And when the drought gets over, we'll have animals to keep the herd going. So they do. They depart. And so Obadiah is whistling along, looking around in half the kingdom of Israel to try to find some grass. Verse 7. And as Obadiah was walking along, Elijah met him. And Obadiah recognized him, and he bowed down to the ground, and he says, is it really you, my lord Elijah? Yes, he replied. Go tell your master, Elijah is here. So Obadiah knows Elijah, and because they're both followers, prophets of God, to follow Yahweh, and And he says to Elijah says to Obadiah, go find Ahab and tell him I'm back. And just think about what Obadiah must think about this. You want me to go tell the king you're back? He's okay. Verse 9, what have I done wrong? Asked Obadiah, that you are handing your servant over to Ahab to be put to death. As surely as the Lord your God lives, there is not a nation or kingdom where my master has not sent someone to look for you. And wherever a nation or kingdom claimed you, and you were not there, he made them swear they could not find you. But now you tell me to go to my master and say, Elijah's here? I don't know where the Spirit of the Lord may carry you when I leave you. If I go and tell Ahab and he doesn't find you, he will kill me. Yet I, your servant, have worshipped the Lord since my youth. Haven't you heard, my Lord, what I did while Jezebel was killing the prophets of the Lord? I hid 100 of the Lord's prophets in 2 caves, 50 in each, and supplied them with food and water. And now you tell me to go to my master and say, Elijah's here. He'll kill me. Obadiah's like, you don't understand what you're asking me to do. You want me to go tell Ahab, oh, I know where Elijah is. And then Ahab's going to say, okay, let's go. And he's going to take an army and we're going to go. And God's going to call you off somewhere else and you're not going to be there. And this is the story. And then he's going to look at me and say, Obadiah, why did you lie to me? And I'm going to get killed. No, I'm sorry. I'm a follower of God. You know I'm a follower of God. But this is going to put me in grave danger if you do not show yourself to Ahab. Grave danger, very grave danger. That's A Few Good Men. Not A Few Good Men. What's that Tom Cruise movie? Anyway, verse 15. Elijah said, as the Lord Almighty lives, whom I serve, I will surely present myself to Ahab today. So Elijah says, listen, I will present myself. You can trust me. I will give you my word that if you go and present to Ahab that I'm here, that he will find me and we will meet each other today. Well, the word of the prophet. So Obadiah went to meet Ahab and told him. And Ahab went to meet Elijah. And when he saw Elijah, he said to him, is that you, you troubler of Israel? So Ahab said, I'll go find Elijah. And then he sees him and he goes, is that you? Is that the one? You're the one that's causing me all this trouble? Because as soon as you say that you are, you're a dead man. Just so you know, I'm not happy with you. Verse 18, I have not made trouble for Israel, Elijah replied, but you and your father's family have. You have abandoned the Lord's commands and followed the Baals. Now summon the people from all over Israel to meet me on Mount Carmel and bring 450 prophets of Baal and 450 prophets of Asherah who eat at Jezebel's table. So Ahab sent word throughout all of Israel and assembled the prophets on Mount Carmel. Elijah went before the people and he said, how long will you waver between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal is God, follow him. So Elijah says, listen, you guys are following all these different gods. You're following the Baals. You're following the Asheroth poles. Some of you are following Yahweh. Which one is it? Which is the God you should follow? Jezebel said you should follow Baal and the Asheroth poles. I mean, that's what they're saying. There's some remnants that say they want to follow Yahweh, but Jezebel's putting them in prison and killing them. So which is the true God? Let's just have a test here. Let's do the scientific method. My hypothesis is that God, Yahweh, will prove himself today, that he is the one true God, and the other gods will not prove themselves today. Let's just do a little experiment, okay? My wife loves experiments. What do the people say? But the people said nothing. Verse 22, then Elijah said to them, I am the only one of the Lord's prophets left. But Baal has 450 prophets. Get 2 bulls for us. Let Baal's prophets choose one for themselves, and let them cut it into pieces and put it on the wood, but not set fire to it. And I will prepare the other bull and put it on the wood and not set fire to it. And when you call in the name of the God, of your God, and I will call in the name of the Lord, the God who answers by fire, that he is God. And then all the people said, what you say is good. So Elijah says, listen, we're going to have a little contest here. If my God is the true God, then he'll show up. If Baal's the true God, he'll show up. Verse 25, Elijah said to the prophets of Baal, choose one of the bulls and prepare it first, since there are so many of you. Call on the name of your God, but do not light the fire. So they took the bull given them and prepared it. And then they called on the name of Baal from morning till noon. Baal, answer us, they shouted. But there was no response. No one answered. And they danced around the altar that they had made. At noon, Elijah began to taunt them. Shout louder, he said. Surely he is God. Perhaps he is deep in thought or busy or traveling. Maybe he's sleeping and must be awakened. So they shouted louder and slashed themselves with swords and spears, as was the custom, until the blood flowed. And midday passed, and they continued their frantic prophesying until the time for the evening sacrifice. But there was no response. No one answered. No one paid attention. Then Elijah said to all the people, come here to me. And they came to him, and he repaired the altar of the Lord, which had been torn down. Elijah took 12 stones, one for each of the tribes descended from Jacob, to whom the word of the Lord had come, saying, your name shall be Israel. And with the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord. And he dug a trench around it, large enough to hold 2 seahs of seed, about 24 pounds. He arranged the wood, cut the bull into pieces, and laid it on the wood. And then he said to them, fill 4 large jars with water and pour it on the offering, on the wood. Do it again, he said, and they did it again. Do it a 3rd time, he ordered, and they did it a 3rd time. And the water ran down all around the altar and even filled the trench. So the first prophets prophesied all day until it was noon, said, God, Baal, do something, and Baal does nothing. And so Elijah starts to taunt them and says, where's your God? Maybe he's sleeping. Maybe he's not there. And then Elijah rebuilds the altar, carefully putting each stone, the 12 stones, one for each of the tribe of the Israelites, and he pours water all over it. Water all over it. Water all over it. If you know anything about fires, it doesn't do well when there's water all over the wood. Verse 36, at the time of sacrifice, the prophet Elijah stepped forward and prayed, Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known today that you are God of Israel, and that I am your servant and have done all these things at your command. Answer me, Lord, answer me. So these people will know that you, Lord, are God, and that you are turning their hearts back again. And then the fire of the Lord fell and burned up the sacrifice, the wood, the stones, and the soil, and also licked up the water in the trench. And when all the people saw this, they fell prostrate and cried, the Lord, he is God. The Lord, he is God. And he is God. And he walked with Elijah. And Elijah had faith that God would come and bring the fire and show these people that Baal isn't God, Yahweh is God. And the people see it and they turn their hearts. But will they follow God? This incredible demonstration that Elijah has done, will they follow God? What will happen? Well, we're going to have to wait until the next episode. Let's close in prayer. Gracious God, thank you for your power. May that power be with us today. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, we'll pick up the story next time. I love this story. I mean, I don't know if there's any movies on this story. I have to look and see if there's a movie. That'd be a fun movie to watch. There was a time when all these biblical stories had great movies behind them. But, today's movies are not that good. All right, except Twisters. You've got to go see Twisters. That's a pretty darn good movie. I really, really enjoyed it. All right, so what is it? It's about time to go. So thank you for joining me. I hope you have a great day in the Lord. Stay dry, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.